The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre.
And you're listening, of course, to 94.9 Rima Central Coast. The time, it's just gone 9 minutes past 10, coming up to 10 minutes past 10. And it's Wednesday, so we're joined by one of our friends from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. And today we're joined by Andrew. Very good morning to you, Andrew.
Morning, Phil. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. What's Christmas like at Dooralong?
Christmas at Dooralong.
Yeah, they got all the decorations going.
Everything's festive. There's people wandering around in elf suits, and they've got a Santa suit for me apparently.
All right, so, you've got the figure for a Santa suit, have you?
Apparently so.
I'm not saying anything.
No.
And will you be having a roast on Christmas Day, do you know?
Well, I'll be off-site on Christmas Day. I'll be with my mother.
Oh, that'll be nice.
So, yeah,
it'll be good to spend at least some part of Christmas with family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Andrew, you've been, how long have you been at Dooralong?
I've been at Dooralong since January 15 this year, so we're coming up to, well, it's 11 and a half months.
Yeah, that's quite a long stay, isn't it?
It is a long stay. It's not my first time in rehab.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of short stay rehabs, and they haven't anywhere near touched the sides, so to speak. Yeah,
I'm always intrigued, I suppose is the right word, when some of these sports stars who sort of, do things they wish they hadn't with addictions, and the club sends them over to Thailand for a month as if that's going to sort of make everything okay. It doesn't seem long enough, a month.
Yeah. No, it's my personal view that it's not.
Yeah.
Especially with my level of addiction to alcohol. So
yeah.
I spent many years drinking, and I can't expect overnight success. So.
Yeah, because that drinking and that sort of habit goes deep.
Oh, very deep.
Yeah.
Extremely.
When did it start?
When I was about 13.
Oh, a long time
ago. First time
then.
I got drunk.
Yeah.
And a lot of illegal drinking.
Yeah.
In pubs. 15, 16, 17.
What were you drinking for at that stage? Were you drinking to get drunk, or just drinking to be social? Or?
I've never actually drunk to get drunk. I was always a very fearful child.
Yeah.
And alcohol just made me less fearful. So
yeah.
Some people have sort of explained it to me, whether it's psychologists and whatnot have explained it to me that I don't actually have a problem with alcohol. I have a problem with reality. And alcohol is the solution that I've used to get away from reality. Yeah, that's the self-medication of it.
That's right. We've heard from a number of guys from Dooralong that they drank, as you say, not necessarily to get drunk, but because they were placed in a sort of social situation and they were no good at small talk, and it was all very sort of anxiety making for them, and just to have a drink took the edge off it for them.
Yeah, I haven't had trouble talking to people or whatnot, but I have had trouble fitting in. I've always felt as if I'm the outsider. Right? Wasn't very good at sports, for argument's sake. I always picked last when they line you up at school.
Yeah, I'm in that club.
Yeah, all that. I mean, that's only little stuff, but little stuff that
it matters.
It matters, I've brushed that aside for many years. But the fact is, I've looked to alcohol for many years as being a cure-all.
Yeah. So you were drinking at 13. What about your sort of family? Did they notice? Did they see what was going on for you?
Well, I wasn't really drinking heavily at 13. It was just like a little bit of an excursion.
All right. So you could hide it.
Well, yeah. When I was 15, my father died when I was very young. I was only 4, and I was brought up by my mother, albeit in an extremely good household. And I'd come home drunk occasionally at 15, 16 years of age, and obviously my mother was very upset. And I could say that I was led a little bit. I was out working at the time, doing a trade.
Yeah.
I was led by older people, older men.
Yeah, they egged you on, and to fit into that culture.
More to fit in.
Yeah.
And as you say, to fit into that culture.
Yeah. There's a lot of pressure, isn't there?
Yeah. Especially at that age.
Yeah.
It's not a case of knowing what I know now. Back then I knew everything. So
Did you think it was a problem at that stage, or
No.
that you had it well and truly under control?
No, it's always been under control.
Always been under
Yeah.
control, yeah.
Yeah.
I could stop tomorrow if I wanted to.
Why would you want to?
But why would you want to?
No, you don't need to stop. No, you're fine. It's okay, you know.
Yeah.
That's the way my disease talks to me.
So this is happening during your teenage years and then into adulthood as well?
All the way through adulthood.
And how much are we talking? What volume of drink are we talking here?
Look, there was never not beer in the house. Beer was my drug of choice. I would, drink wine, but only if I could have the whole bottle.
Yeah.
I would. During my first marriage, it was a case of I would be at some stages. I'd engineer a job or a position that I could work in where drinking was not necessarily acceptable, but I could engineer my time where I could start drinking at 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
Right.
And get home at 6 o'clock after having consumed probably around about 10 or 12 beers.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is, but I had a very high tolerance.
Yeah.
And, in the latest stages of my drinking over the last few years, I'm 53 now, it was nothing to drink, 2 4-litre casks of wine a day.
Yet, and I know this, but the listeners won't, yet you were also a successful businessman, and that's, the imagery we have of successful businessmen is not somebody drinking 12 beers a day.
Well, no, it's not, because I have had periods of sobriety, albeit not good sobriety. I mean, I can stop drinking. There's a difference between stopping and staying stopped.
Right.
Major difference.
Just think about that. So you find it easy not to have a drink during the day, on one of those days?
If I don't have a program in place, a program for argument's sake, as offered out at Dooralong, and that's not an ad, that's the truth. Right? If I don't have a program that I work constantly, right, it's never off my mind. I may not be physically drinking, and I may not be doing that for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, but in my head, I'm constantly obsessing.
So that thought is always there.
Always there.
And that temptation is always there.
Temptation's always there, and it's not hard for me to drink. I mean, as I said earlier, my deal is on every corner. There's a pub on every corner. There's a bottle shop across the road that I'm sitting here looking at.
Yeah, I know. Well, close the blinds. Your deal is over the road.
No, I don't. No, as far as I'm concerned, the headspace that I'm in now, there's a big skull and crossbones on that, and that, the hazardous material side.
Yeah, poison.
It is. It's toxic.
Yeah. So that you say you can go for weeks and months, or you were able to go for weeks and months without having a drink, but it was always a struggle for you. It was always rattling around in your mind, and that temptation was there. When you did succumb after a couple of weeks, couple of months, there would then be feelings of, self-loathing and guilt, I imagine.
One of the things that's said around the rooms of AA is that, and also in NA, in 12-step programs, that the disease of addiction is very cunning, baffling and powerful. And the cunning part of it is it can fool you. You're fooling yourself. But it lets you make a couple of mistakes. It lets you have a couple of drinks, and then you think to yourself, oh, well, I'll have a couple of drinks on Monday. Yeah. Which I do. And then that's fine. I get up on Tuesday, and you mentioned that I was running my business, which I was. Yeah. And I'd go to work, and everything would be fine. And Wednesday, and I wouldn't drink Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday and Sunday. Wow! Right, and so I'd get to Sunday and I'd think to myself, well, everything went fine this week, nothing was wrong. Yeah. So I mustn't be an alcoholic. Everything's okay. Yeah. And very subtle. Very, very subtle. And so I'll have a couple more, maybe 3 or 4 on Monday. Doesn't take me long. Right. I'm talking about 6 years ago now. Yeah, yeah. These days, different. Okay, it's different. These days it takes me, I don't stop for a start. I can't stop. The compulsion, as soon as I have one drink, the compulsion sets in. So that first drink is... One's too many, 1,000's not enough. The first drink kicks off the compulsion, the compulsion brings on the shame.
Yeah.
And then the shame leads me directly, well, the last few bouts I've had have led me straight to thoughts and also, had a go at suicide.
Yeah.
So hopeless, helpless, useless.
It's amazing, isn't it? In a scary way to think that just, a schooner or schooner of beer can lead to somebody actually taking their life.
Well, it can, and in my case, it comes from years of abuse of alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm realistic enough to realise that not everyone in society is an alcoholic. And to judge people as alcoholics when they're like heavy drinkers can be a little bit harsh. But there is definite behaviours that are set up through addiction that you can notice, and I notice in myself. But it's just where it takes me to. It takes a lot of people to,
And what was it doing to relationships? You mentioned your first wife. What was it doing to family relationships?
Oh, look, family relationships, it destroys.
Just destroys.
It's, it's in my case. I've never been. I was raised. My father died when I was 4. I was raised by women. I was raised by my mother, grandmothers, aunties. The only male role model I had in my life at the time, and as far as a patriarch, was my grandfather, who was, I don't know whether to say it on a Christian radio, but he was the one that made me.
Yeah, he wasn't a good role model.
No, and there was no abuse there, but he was a very staunch Bible-thumping Baptist from the 50s, but a very angry man.
Sort of the hell and brimstone.
Fire and brimstone, yeah.
Pointy-fingered type.
Oh, yeah. And he...
Not helpful.
No, not helpful. He was actually my role model for being an atheist for many years.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it, that image that lots of people have, and I suppose the church has to accept responsibility for that. But when you read the Bible, you never see Jesus go around, shouting at people and wagging his finger at them and
doesn't happen.
Them. He just goes up and says, "Hey guys, can I help?" sort of thing.
Yeah, like the woman at the well.
Yeah, exactly. The woman at the well. He was so gentle in that conversation. So it's toxic as far as your relationships are concerned.
Yeah. And my first marriage, I mean, as I said, very respectful towards women as far as physically, but my first wife, God bless her cotton socks, I love her dearly. Wonderful mother. I've got 2 beautiful children as a result. But, the mental torture of living with an alcoholic or someone in addiction. Yeah. I mean, not coming home for 3 days at a time without even, giving any excuse. Going to a hardware store to buy a bag of nails and not coming back for 6 hours.
So hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
For your wife and your kids as well.
Exactly, especially for my children, especially
Where's
for my
Dad?
wife.
Where's Dad? Mum doesn't know.
No. Oh, she knows.
Oh, she knows.
She knows I'm down at the bowling club or I'm down at the pub, and she knows it's Saturday and I don't care and this, that, da-da-da-da. Yeah. And because it's the only thing on my mind. The only thing
number one
is feed the addiction.
Yeah.
But the back of my head is telling me that it's normal.
It's okay.
Every person around me knows it's not. Every person around me sees it's not, except for me.
The only deluded person is yourself.
Absolute and utter delusion. People say denial. I don't like denial.
Self-delusion.
It's delusion. It's a mental state. I'm literally living in delusion.
And we're back. We're back talking to Andrew. We talked briefly before the break about how his addiction and the hopelessness that was surrounding his life at that time led to a suicide attempt. And there are other things that we'll probably touch on which might be a little bit challenging for you. So look, as we do on all these occasions, we just remind you that if it triggers something for you, if you need help, we've got some great friends down at Lifeline, 13 11 14. They're there 24/7. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, 24/7, 365 days a year. They're beautiful people. So if you feel you want to talk to somebody about issues that have been raised for you, just give 13 11 14 a number. Okay, Andrew, we talked before the break about your alcoholism and your relationships and how it's poisoning them and poisoning you.
Mhm.
But you actually you spiraled down and down and down, and you know, your rock bottom was a really scary place, wasn't it?
Yeah, my final one was.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Well, my last rock bottom was back at Christmas time, this time last year.
Mm.
And I just felt totally and utterly out of control. That nothing that I could do was worth it anymore, that I was literally hopeless, helpless and useless.
Yeah.
And I'd started drinking again. I was in a very, very poor relationship, toxic relationship with another alcoholic. I'd only been drinking for 2 or 3 days, but it was enough to set off the whole scenario again.
Yeah.
And what happened is, we were just discussing, I was actually not drinking, and prior to Christmas, and I'd actually been out to Dooralong. Without even knowing it. I didn't know what it was.
This I was going to say it's spooky, but I think probably what I mean, this is spiritual, because you actually went to Dooralong before you actually went to Dooralong as a guest there.
Exactly, because I was working as a contract salesperson, and I went out onto the Dooralong Road to go to Lemon Tree to do a quote for a guy who'd given me the wrong address. And there's no phone service out there, and so I'd noticed there was a cafe. If anyone's been out that way, they'll notice that written on the roof.
Yeah.
I went back there to see if they had service there or a phone to ring him. And I got to Dooralong and was told that there's no phone service there either, but I was given the use of the phone and rang the guy and got the correct address.
Yeah.
End of story, drove up, did the job.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, I'd found myself from a suicide attempt, Royal North Shore Hospital, spent a bit of time in the psych ward.
Yeah.
I managed...
So this is you can't get any further down, can you?
No,
trying to take your own life.
No. Well, that's why I was in the psych ward, and I which came off a bit of a bender, and I managed to talk myself out of there. I was this time down staying with my mother. And she left for a day, and I just went and drank.
So you were left on your own?
Yeah, and I basically absconded. And I went to see a friend of mine, and I wasn't welcome there because I was drunk. And I took it on myself, and I thought to myself, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this. I can't live like this anymore. I can't live with it. I went and bought 3 new T-shirts because my old one that I had on was disgustingly dirty. So I put one on, and I booked a motel room in North Ryde. Sorry, not North Ryde, West Ryde, because my intention was, even though I've never been interested in drugs, I knew that heroin could kill you. West Ryde Hotel used to be a drug den, so I went...
So the intention was to get some heroin?
Yeah, I had no idea what to do with it other than eat it, you know. I thought that if I get enough for 5 people, that'll be enough. Surely that'll do the job. And I got to the motel room. I had another clean T-shirt that I was going to put on to die in, so they could bury me in that. And I had a clean one to go to the pub with. I went down to the pub, and the whole pub's been done up. It was actually quite nice, and it was no longer the sin den that it wanted to be. And I asked around, and it got nothing but negatives. So
no dealers.
No dealers there. That was the first time looking back on it. It's what I class as a God job. That was
God had taken them away.
Well, yeah.
He's already introduced you to Dooralong. Now he's got rid of the dealers for you.
Yeah. So the dealers are gone, and then the next thing that happened was I thought to myself, well, that's fine. I can drink myself to death. I know that I've done that in the past. So drank about 18 schooners at the pub, and still upright and still lucid. I bought a litre bottle of vodka and thought that'll do it. I went back to the motel room, and I'd lost my key, and there was no one at reception. and they wouldn't answer the phone. So I thought, well, I'm not going to be here long, so I kicked the door in. I'd paid for the room. In my alcoholic haze, I thought that was logical. I sculled the bottle of vodka, put my clean T-shirt on, and went to bed and just lay down to die. And the next thing I know, the police were there, which I was very annoyed at, because, how dare you interrupt? And from there, I was taken yet again to Hornsby Hospital. Psych ward, suicide attempt. From there, I went to Royal North Shore, to their detox. Stayed there for 9 days. Spoke to a friend of mine in AA, who had a friend of his at Dooralong. Said, I can get you into Dooralong. And I said, what's Dooralong? And he told me. And I said, hang on a second.
That rings a bell.
That rings a bell. And I got into Dooralong.
Probably saved your life.
It did save my life, and I view it now. If I put everything down, to me, it's what I class as a God job.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a guy who gives me the wrong address.
Yeah.
I go back and find this place Dooralong, which I know nothing goes on about.
Yeah.
I go to a pub where I can't buy drugs that I don't know how to use in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. I lose my key to a motel room. I don't believe in coincidence, by the way.
Somebody rings the police.
Yeah, someone rings the police.
Yeah.
Then I end up in Dooralong, and this all started because I didn't have phone reception and a wrong address. I mean, it's no coincidence.
No, absolutely not.
Someone out there wants me alive for something.
So look, we're going to start looking at the other side of it. We've been into the depths with Andrew. We're not going to leave him there, of course. I just want to remind people again, before we sort of carry on our conversation with Andrew, about giving Lifeline a ring if you suicide or alcoholism or anything really affects you. 13 11 14. So Andrew, we'll break for music in just a moment, but we've got you at Dooralong. Were you a reluctant sort of guest there, or did you embrace it wholeheartedly right from the word go?
From the word go, it literally was, the only way I can explain it was total and utter relief.
Total and utter relief.
Yeah, and total around. Look, it's beautiful surroundings, but I had experience in rehab before. I knew that it's what I needed. And
you had hope.
Yeah, I had a sliver of hope at the time.
Yeah.
I knew what it was needed, and what had to develop for me over time was the want. I mean, need and want to me is two totally different things.
Okay. Now that we started being a little bit more positive about Andrew's story, let's start there. Okay, we're back talking to Andrew, who in our chat previously to that track had reached a really, really low point, perhaps the lowest point of his life. But we didn't leave him there. We made sure we got him to Dooralong, and that's where you are at the moment. Talk us through the first couple of days, weeks, months at Dooralong. What's it like for a new sort of participant?
It can be a little bit daunting if
I can imagine.
If you're not familiar with what the program is. I was already familiar with the Bridge program.
Yeah.
Through people that I've associated with in AA prior, and I've got major faith in the Bridge program and the Salvation Army, because evidence for me is the seeing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that have been very successful and years and years and years clean and sober because of it.
So you knew you were in a
I knew I was in the space that I really needed to be in.
Yeah.
And when I got there, for me, it was a sense of major relief.
Relief.
Yeah. And not, the surroundings are beautiful, yeah. Mm-hmm. But the whole program itself was structured. It was like, I don't know, we speak in 12-step programs that a key part of it is other people understand where you come from.
Yeah.
So, like counsellors out there have had their own addictions over the years, and they've years and years clean. They understand where you come from, and they understand where you're working. They do know.
Yeah.
And the level of not just compassion but understanding.
Yeah.
Is it's hard to explain. It's like going home to your tribe. You know.
Yeah.
You're in your tribe. They're not.
You feel comfortable.
You're not related by blood, but there's a commonality.
There's a bond, common bond.
There's a bond.
What about the God side of it? Because again, we've had some guests there who had sort of no involvement really with church or with God in their life, and they thought for a little while that they'd joined some cult. What about yourself?
Well, personally, I don't believe it's a cult. never.
Nor do they now. Now they know. But that was the initial reaction.
Yeah, and I can see if from the standpoint. From that standpoint, why people would think it was a cult. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, I come from a point of being atheist to then being agnostic.
So even when you moved into Dooralong just under a year ago, you would have described yourself as an atheist?
No.
Okay.
I was from say age of 15 through to 40. I was an atheist from like 40 to 50, I would say I was agnostic. You know, like I
didn't know.
Yeah, I really didn't want to say no. You know,
there's a chance.
And then I classed myself just as spiritual. But I mean, for me, my journey's been. I needed more depth than that. And for me, being spiritual was not believing actually in God, believing in a higher power, yes, but not God.
Yeah, not knowing God.
Yeah. And my time at Dooralong has actually been quite good there because it hasn't been all that difficult for me to convert my higher power to now my understanding of God. And the issue for me that was raised was that I was looking the wrong way round, and I was trying to find faith from the ground up. And I've been in sales for many years, and I know it's really, really hard to make a big dollar decision. Right. Yeah. If the guy who holds the money's up the top, and I'm trying to sell it to the guy who's sweeping the floor, and I'm not being derogatory, it's hard to push that sale up. It's easy to grab the guy who's got the money
and get him to open
his checkbook, and then everything flows down.
Yeah.
Right. So I was struggling to find faith, believing in a higher power, not knowing what it was, and I was almost like a revelation, I suppose. I sat there one day and I looked at my son, who, as we were just talking, is an Anglican minister for Northmead Anglican.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a story behind that. Very, very proud of him. And he has no problem with finding God. I thought, well, and then I did the Alpha course out at Dooralong.
Yeah.
And I also did the Grace course, and there was a lot of questions that I had answered in those two things, and they made sense to me.
Right.
You know, because I'm engineering type brain. Everything's got to be this, that, the other.
There's got to be some sort of. It's got to be an intelligent, rational sort of process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I came to the decision that if I'm going to sit here and say there is no God, who am I to say that there isn't? So if I'm, it just doesn't make any sense. For me to turn around and say I'm trying to find faith to find God was the wrong way for me to look. The down way. So I thought to myself, okay, let's find God. Where's God? And I said, there's God. And I just decided I was going to believe in God. So the person that I'd been speaking to in my head, that I'd been talking to, that I said was my higher power, now became my God, and from there flowed my faith.
So this person who engineered really all those things so that you didn't kill yourself, you now can put a name to that to that power.
Look, I don't have a face to it, and I don't it's not some guy sitting on a cloud with long flowing robes.
No, of course.
I know he's not judgmental.
Yeah.
He only wants the best for me.
But it is a power, it is a spirit.
It is a power, it's an energy.
Yeah.
And for me, God's in me.
Yeah.
God's in you. God's everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's a loving God. And it's He keeps me on an even keel.
So God, Jesus, they are part of your life now, would you say?
my God is.
Yeah.
Right. Via the Alpha course, I do. Well, I love history, so there's too much evidence for me to repute and dismiss Jesus. I don't find a path to my God through Jesus. Right, and I'm not saying I got a direct line. But like I believe that Jesus is an essential part of what I believe in. I believe mainly or chiefly in Christian teachings.
Yeah.
Right, which are a great way to live life, which is something that I've actually put aside.
You've been on a journey, haven't you, with a spirituality?
Major journey.
A major journey, and I suppose we're all works in progress. That journey's not complete yet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people on this planet still that would say that they wish I'd gotten there a lot earlier.
Yeah, your son is a minister. He probably has been praying for you over the years.
Yeah,
and, he must be really proud of you. I know you're proud of him, but it must work the other way around as well.
I would hope to think that way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He surprised me. He went to Moore College and he was involved with a youth Pentecostal church. And he believes his belief stems from the gospel, that the gospel is the basis.
Yes.
And we used to have great discussions when he was working for me. Never in a negative way. I'd ask questions.
Constructive.
But I was looking at it from my side, prove it to me in science type of way. And
give me the evidence.
Yeah, give me the evidence. Like how come you've got faith? How can you just have faith in that? And he'd found his God. And I was quite surprised actually when he took the position as an Anglican minister, because he would always say that that was religion as opposed to Christianity and God. And I posed that question to him. I said, "You've gone to fight for the other side." I said, "You've gone down the religion path." He said, "No, Dad." And he said, "I'm going to change them from the inside." But he's a very, very wise young man. I argue that he's the wisest man I know.
You will have some interesting discussions with him still, I would think.
Christmas, Boxing Day, actually.
Boxing Day.
I'm looking forward to.
So what does the future hold for Andrew? I suppose only God can answer that, but you must have some sort of hopes for the future.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, that's what Dooralong's given me. It's given me hope.
Yeah.
I've come from a position of being, in my thoughts, hopeless, useless, and nothing's ever going to work for me again. To now I do have hope.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to be doing is I've had a lot of experience in sales. I left my trade in '88, went into sales, owned my own company.
Yes. You've had a good, you've had a track record as a businessman.
Yeah. And I'm going to go to TAFE next year and get a Cert 4 in training.
Okay, yeah.
How I'm going to use that at this stage is a little bit up in the air, but I'm extremely good at training. But in March I'll be graduating from Dooralong.
Yeah.
From there, I'm applying for and hopefully going to be in the mentor program out there.
Oh, you want to give back?
Yeah, so I really want to give back to what's been so freely given to me.
Yeah. I think it means so much for the guys and the girls as well we've talked to, that they are given a mentor and a buddy, if you like, and somebody that can come alongside them for a really what is a really sort of daunting experience for them.
Yes, look, getting clean, I always say, is like not hard, it's the staying clean bit that's hard.
Yeah.
And that's clean of any addiction.
And what about yourself? Because in that context you mentioned earlier about that constant battle that was going on in your own mind between, a voice or a force saying, "You're okay, you can have one drink. Look, you haven't had a drink since last week. Just have another one, you'll be fine." Is that voice still there?
Well, the voice is always there. The voice doesn't go away. Right? I described it when we were doing Grace. Like it's sort of kind of like we're sitting here in a radio station. Like you've got 3 channels. Like normally, Andrew's head is just sitting there like easy listening.
Middle of the road.
And then off to the left side, there's a voice there that just wants to keep playing, like, I don't know, death metal or something like that.
Yeah.
And off to the right's Rima FM.
Oh, so you got 3 sort of channels.
There's 3 channels.
3 voices.
Yeah, so I can tune into whatever I want to tune into.
So what's the countervailing voice to the one that's telling you that you're okay, you can have a drink, you'll manage?
It gets quieter. The less I listen to it, it quietens down and quietens
there's
down.
an opposite voice to that?
Oh, it's the opposite. And in the analogy I just used, the opposite voice on the radio dial is a Rima.
It's the God side.
It's the God side. It's my God.
So God is saying, don't listen to that voice.
Basically,
it's lying to you.
Yeah.
Look where it took you last time. Look back to that motel and the heroin.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it'll come out of nowhere as well. I'll just be walking along and it'll go and have a drink. And then I'll sort of look
very devious, isn't it?
I'll look to my right shoulder and say, what do you think about that? And then God will say to me, well, I don't think that's going to be a good idea, but honestly, what do you think? And I'll go, well, I think I'll take your advice. And
I've been listening to the other guy for a bit too long.
I've been listening to him too long. And sort of he'll skulk away for a little while, but he never disappears.
He never goes. I guess that's the same for all of us, isn't it? In that we are all sort of human and we all have our frailties and we all have our temptations. Yours is drink, but we've all got our temptations. And there is a battle going on. Joyce Meyer wrote, didn't she? I don't know whether you've seen it. She wrote a book called something of the mind. The battle over the mind or something like that, and it describes the voices in your head telling you to do one thing and another voice saying, oh no, don't do that, you'll mess your life up.
That's true. I mean, some people choose to call that conscience. I choose to call that God.
Me too.
And it's the enemy in God. To me it's that simple. The simpler I keep it, the easier it is for me. I mean, I love the analogy that you hear around the rooms of AA with the two wolves, of the old Indian saying. I don't know if you've ever heard it. Whereas the Indian elder, the young son is asking for advice of the elder, and he said that, there's a battle going on in everyone's mind. He said there's a grey wolf and a black wolf. And he said, and they're fighting, and he said, and the young son asked the elder, how do you know which one's going to win the fight? And he says, well, it depends which one you feed.
Exactly.
So the grey wolf and black wolf, good, evil, whichever one.
Which one are you going to feed?
If I feed into my addiction, I feed into my addiction.
And during that little time, I've thought of the name of that book. It's The Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. It's a good book. It does deal specifically with that issue of those voices in the mind pulling us in different directions.
Voices in your head can be a good thing. As long as they're the right ones.
Listen to the right ones.
As long as they're the right ones.
Andrew, it's been terrific talking to you. We've nearly run up against the news. It's 5 to 11, so we've been going for a good long time. It's been terrific talking to you. Would love it if someday you could come back and 6 months down the track maybe, wherever you are, if you just give us a ring and come in and tell us how life's treating you at that time.
I'd absolutely love to. It's been great fun.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 rema.cc.